insufficient.
We can make the dollar the most attractive currency by continuing to have the rule of law.
You can always print money to do that.
I suppose it would diminish our status as the reserve currency.
Just shut up. There's no expectation of privacy above me in the sky.
So Bitcoin is the solution because you can buy Bitcoin right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into why BTC and ETH will never, ever compete with XRP in global payments. Now, for a lot of people, they're part of the XRP army. They're going to say, well, no kidding, I already know that. Right. But if anything, how would you like to see it actually be documented? Yeah. Big up to Smoke, bringing the receipts once again of why this matters. I think it is a big deal, whether you feel as though you already know about it or not. Let's jump into this. And again, why it matters to you. So, not going to be a long video, but I think it's definitely worth pointing it out. So, he goes into the whole thing of this topic. For one, I do agree that scalability is a no-brainer here, but look what it says. Scalability means how well a system can handle lots of transactions at the same time, quickly and without high costs. Banks need this because they process millions of payments every day that must be fast and, of course, affordable. For some people in this space, and I'll just zoom in on myself, that want to point out, basically speaking, you know which one I'm talking about. There's a particular blockchain that does all 1 million plus TPS. Hey, I hold that coin, and I get it. And that one, in my opinion, has the most impressive tech stack out there. But for me, it's not necessarily what you have, it's who you know. We also know when it comes to XRP, they have a key partnership with the Bank for International Settlements. So as far as that scalability is concerned, they having that direct partnership means they connect to a thing called the M10. At the end of this video, you'll see a deep dive about the whole thing of the M10. Why is that important? Well, it might have something to do with 1 million plus TPS. You heard me right. Take the time to watch that video. You'll have your answers about whether XRP can scale way past the whole thing of 1500 TPS. So we jump back into this and why it matters to you.
If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. It's just a few taps. You can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.
Smoke points out some of these other key findings, and it's basically this. Bitcoin and Ethereum process fewer than 20 transactions per second. Cannot scale to meet demands of global finance. And of course, like it says, BTC and Ethereum. Their high fees, long confirmation times, and energy-intensive consensus mechanisms make them incompatible with modern payment infrastructure, especially in regulated environments. That is why banks and institutions continue to exclude BTC and ETH from high-volume payment systems due to, of course, regulations. The XRP ledger was built from the ground up for speed, scale, and utility. Because of these core design choices, XRP is uniquely suited for real-time payments and high-volume financial settlement. Simply put, BTC and Ethereum were not built for today's payment demands. Ripple was. That is why Ripple is being integrated into real banking systems, while BTC and ETH remain sidelined for speculative use. All documented below. We did say it was documented, all documented below. Let's pull this up one by one real quick. And the first one comes from a citation called link.springer.com. No, not Jerry Springer, but nonetheless, interesting to hear the terminology. So as we go further down, let's highlight this. Look what it says here. So right below the part where it says account-based fiat-denominated payments and DLT-based fiat-denominated payments. It's not in the highlight, but interesting to see that the notes of SEPA, once again, that's interesting. And of course, in the highlight from Smoke, it says crypto assets such as BTC and Ether are unsuitable as payment instruments for most DLT use cases due to their high volatility and low scalability. Definitely worth pointing out. Next part we're going to get into is basically this. And of course, taken, I guess, from a guy's cell phone, from Discord app and so on. But I want to jump down to this part. Talks about this person. Mr. Burles says that Ripple developed its technology with scalability in mind. Quote, to deploy something for Santander Chartered, Santander, or Bank of America, our solution needs to scale to hundreds of thousands of transactions per second. This was designed from the outset, he says. Now, guys, I get it. You're going to point out that, yep, BSV is the only one that's going to do that. That's not necessarily true. Again, think about the whole thing of the Bank for International Settlements. Again, the M10. They definitely have the direct partnership with the BIS, and therefore you do have that sense of that particular value. So M10 could do over 1 million TPS. So you do have things like your XDCs, your Stellars, and so on. So that's definitely worth pointing out as well. And this other part, I think this is the final one. We'll kick it over to Jesse. This one comes from a citation from arxiv.org. I point out. Well, it's the whole thing of energy trading system, the Edison X, and what it shares or shows, I should say here, not quite highlight on the very top part, but I do want to at least recognize it. Figure 1 shows a system configuration of Edison X. We use XRP Ledger that consumes little electric energy for validation because it uses an algorithm instead of mining. The XRPL is a public permissionless blockchain that has been operating since 2012 and is one of the largest blockchain networks in the world. The key difference between XRPL and other major blockchain networks, such as BTC and ETH, is that XRPL uses Federated Byzantine Agreement, which is FBA, as its consensus mechanism, which makes its settlement extremely fast, 3 to 4 seconds per settlement. And by the way, with Finality, low cost of 0.201, I think it's a little bit cheaper than that now, and scalable. Of course, Stellar really takes the cake on that. And of course, BSV takes the cake on that when it comes to transactions. But because of these properties, XRPL is ideal for payments and settlement use cases. And this other part. Therefore, the XRPL, which has a superior processing time, is adopted to solve the problem of fast transaction time. That's definitely worth pointing out. This other part that's not highlighted talks about Firebase, a platform on the Google Cloud. Firebase has the advantage of the ease of management and high security through an authentication system, of course, developed by Google. These are some real key citations. This is why we share it. This is why we bring you this type of research here on our particular platforms. Let's kick it to a guy who has done thousands and thousands of hours of deep dive research. Your thoughts in regard to everything that was shared from our brother Smoke in the community, Jesse.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Yeah, I know. So they talk about DLT fiat payments, right? And then immediately after, they talk about automated real-time gross settlement. And in my videos, I explained how Gilbert Verdian, this is going to be a little spiel here, okay? But keep in mind that document talked about real-time gross settlement. And like I said, in one of my videos where I proved that the shared ledger, unified ledger, real-time gross settlement, the global real-time gross settlement, the regulated liability network, the regulated settlement network, and the regulated internal value is all the same thing. It's all the XRP ledger. So I proved that in my videos. I'm using documents. I prove it's not me saying it. These are bank documents, right? But it showed, like, because Gilbert Verdian said, creator of Quant, right? Gilbert Verdian said we also partnered with R3 when he was referring to the real-time gross settlement. When he was talking about the regulated liability network, he said we also partnered with R3, who is bringing in the shared ledger, where all of the tokenized assets reside. So in my videos, I proved that that's all the XRP ledger, like I said, hands down, because Tony McLaughlin from Citibank said that the regulated liability network and the shared ledger is the exact same thing. Then there's another document from Citibank saying that the regulated liability network used to be called the regulated internet of value. That's Ripple. And then, and Stellar 2 will play a role as well, I'm sure, but the main unified ledger. But then there's another document I show where it says that the BIS, when they talk about the regulated liability network, the RLN, they call it the unified ledger. So I confirm that the shared ledger, the regulated liability network, the unified ledger, and the regulated internal value is all the same. But then I show a document where they say that the regulated liability network has the potential to become a global RTGS, a global real-time gross settlement. Then I showed a document of the Hyperledger Foundation where they laid out the Internet of Value. It was like a 14-page document. It involved R3, XRP, and the Interledger Protocol were the main players. This was coming from the Hyperledger Foundation. They're now called the Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust. That document showed the XRP ledger being the global RTGS. So again, this document, it talks about DLT fiat payments, and it talks about the real-time gross settlement, right? So, and then so it's always pointing back to that XRP ledger every time. So if they're talking about Bitcoin's too slow, it's too expensive, or Ethereum doesn't really scale, every time it's always leading to that XRP ledger. That was the goal from the very beginning, was that XRP ledger is the Internet of Value. And we talked about the BIS. You talked about the BIS. So it was the BIS cross-border payment group or something like that, or the BIS payment steering committee. Anyways, it's the BIS cross-border payment task force, I think it was. But anyways, I show that on my videos. I forgot the exact title of that group. But anyways, the only blockchain, the only DLT that's part of that BIS cross-border group is Ripple. It's the only one. There's other payment companies, but the only blockchain or the only DLT company is on that the BIS cross-border payment task force, or whatever the name is, I forgot. That was created, I think it's 2021 or 2023. Is Ripple's the only one? Well, isn't that interesting? So yeah, like I said it before, like people that are arguing that Bitcoin is the solution for peer-to-peer payments, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like it doesn't scale. And nobody's going to buy a cup of coffee and wait an hour and a half. Sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, sometimes it can go up to even 2-3 hours, I think. But generally, I think it's like 30 minutes to an hour and a half for the transaction to process. Are you like, you're really? Everybody's going to wait behind the line for an hour and a half for the transaction to process, to confirm, so you can, move on with your coffee while everybody else waited behind you for an hour and a half? And are you going to pay $6 or $10 or $20, $15 transaction fee to buy a $3 coffee? It doesn't work. Like, forget that idea, please. I'm sorry. I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but Bitcoin is not a solution for peer-to-peer. It's just not. And Ethereum either. It's just, it's like, forget that idea. It's just not happening. It's not happening. No matter, like it's just, and Michael Saylor, I really question, like, he presents Bitcoin as the ultimate solution. Like man, I'm not saying Bitcoin's not going to go to higher prices and like none of that, but I mean, I think he's a bit too bullish on Bitcoin. Like, relax, buddy. I just don't see it, because Bitcoin was the first one, right? And so if you look at the internet, when they started the internet, the first websites and the first internet companies were not the ones that end up succeeding and becoming the bigger ones. Like AOL, Netscape, all those big guys at first are not the ones that survived and became these behemoths like Facebook and Google and like all these other ones. No, they were not the winners. The first ones were not the winners. So this idea that Bitcoin's always going to be the biggest one forever and it's going to go to 15 million, and like, no, I absolutely don't agree. But it's not financial advice. Like I said, I always say I'm not a financial advisor. It's just an average guy with an opinion. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. My little rant for today, for now.
All good. Guys, do us a solid if you listen to this entire outline and simply type in an average guy, and we'll know that you listen to the entire outline. On behalf of myself and Jesse, we're at Apex Crypto Consulting. I know he doesn't want me to say the NFA, but anyway.
If you want. I want to add something though. Average guy with some big backing. Big backing right there.
Oh, that's the greatest. Hey, that's the greatest backing there is, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. We could talk about crypto until we're blue in the face. I am absolutely nothing without the Lord Jesus in my life, and if that offends people, I don't really care. So,
not the goal.
It is what it is.
Not the goal to offend.
Not the goal to offend, but if people take it the wrong way, then it is what it is, you know? Anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Okay.
We'll see you guys on the next one.
See you guys.